Okay, hello and welcome to me being in here with Michael Jackson's legs in the background and some of my comics actually. The reason why I'm in here is because my neighbours are being noisy and it's kind of like every 5 seconds there'll be a basketball going thump, thump, thump. That'll be wrong, as if to sort of try and prove me wrong. Oops. Anyway, this is part 2 of the George Harrison singles. I've just leaned back on something, haven't I? Oh, it's just a work kilometre thing. Anyway, so first up is the one that he did in memory of John Lennon. And, well, think, oh, what's that? All those years ago. The interesting thing is that it's being produced by Ray Cooper. You kind of think, good grief, did he bring his bongos out or something? I remember reading somewhere that the Paul McCartney being on backing vocals in the single, but apparently it was still a little bit fractious in the studio. They did it, but yeah, it was just apparently it was a little bit. But I noticed that George didn't return the favour on Here Today, which McCartney did on his Tug of War album. And that was the Australian version, and here is the Italian version. Don't you just love the cover design and the cracking of my wrist? I could always put this through the hues, just to give it a little bit of a rainbow or something like that, just to give it a bit of extra colour. Yeah. It's just going through the hues. Now, obviously, being an Italian copy, it's not in Italian. It's just a very bland single cover, but the same song and the same B-side too, with the writings on the wall. And next up is the Australian copy of Teardrops, and it's got nothing to do with Hollandosia Holland or anything like that. It's only teardrops. That's the Roy Orbison version, isn't it? But no, it's written by George Harrison and George Harrison. Just got to double check. Harrison. No, that doesn't sound right. But we've gone from the somewhat, I suppose I could say bland, from the brown. Yeah. So I've gone from that to, I suppose, a similar colour scheme with this. It's the German copy with George. Obviously, he's got a headache or something like that. It's really interesting, shading yourself from the sun, wearing your sunglasses. Just something that you do. I don't think this really did anything. I don't think it really went anywhere. It was just one of those ones that sometimes are released as singles and you're sort of left scratching your head or shading your eyes, wondering why. Next up is from Gon Troppo. This is the Australian pressing. Wake up, my love. Yes, set your alarms. And have George sing you awake. Doesn't sound right. Sing you to sleep sounds... Oh no, that could be taken the wrong way. Don't. That's not meant to be taken that way. You can set your alarm and have George... Oh gee, there's all sorts of things you can use for alarms these days, isn't there? And next up is the Italian copy of Wake Up, My Love. Can have two and they'd be like glasses. Can you so tell it's from the Gon Troppo album? There seems to be a similarity to that in the cover, doesn't there? George keeping the sunnies on, and the hat. I read somewhere that George didn't particularly like the album, didn't particularly like the Gon Troppo album. That it was kind of one of those things that he felt he had to dash off as a contractual obligation or something. I can't remember how it went, but I did, yeah, I did. But then George could be a bit disparaging sometimes of his stuff, couldn't he? And next up we have a mystery single. What could it be? There we are. I haven't doctored it or anything like that. There really is nothing written on this, but I can tell you what it actually was. Got My Mind Set on You. There was a few singles that were released like that. I think I showed you the Bananarama one that had that. I think a Frankie Goes to Hollywood one had a similar thing. Maybe they ran out of ink or something. Who knows? But I suppose if nothing else, it does sort of save a little bit of ink. Maybe they hadn't quite got the font correct. Might have been a bit of that. Oh, hang on, no, we can't have the creepster font. Got my mind set on you there. Here we go. George doing his George Michael thing there, really. I think I read somewhere that George had been wanting to do that song for years and it just got dusted off for that. Yeah, it was one of those ones, yes, it brought him back into the charts. And I think on an early pressing of the Cloud 9 LP, they mistakenly credited him as the songwriter. I think it was one of those things where people honestly thought that it was George's song until they was like, oh, Rudy Clark, is that an alias? Well, George did go under the occasional alias from time to time, didn't he? Then next up, we've got the Australian copy to When We Was Fab. And I remember an interview where George was absolutely taking the mickey, saying that sort of, oh, when the video finishes, I crash back through the wall and all of this sort of stuff. And he was so convincing. Actually had me think, well, where's the actually had me wondering where this extended version of the video was. George said in an interview that in the video that really was the Sergeant Pepper outfit that he was wearing. He had to sort of be shimmied into it a little bit, but he still got in it. So that was When He Was Fab. He brought out his oranges. But I noticed that I like the fact that he's used the same artistry as to the Revolver album, but you'd think that they could have gotten rid of the that's maybe these days they could have either that, or maybe it was a comment. It's like, when we was fab. These days people probably would put it that way. When we was fab, let's do it with Selfie. No, I can't imagine me being drawn like that. That would just look hideous. It's bad enough me being forced to do this. Mind you, I did do a Michael Jackson video, I think. Yes, I did. Have a look up there. Third single from Cloud 9, This Is Love. I actually really like this song. I think it probably should have done a little bit better than it did, but it definitely had that Jeff Lynne feel to it, though. That's the thing. You always knew when something was produced by Jeff Lynne. You could hear it in the Real Love single, the Beatles' Real Love thing. Very, very Jeff Lynne. And lucky last, we've got, and I always like the title to this, Cheer Down. But I don't think this got a lot of promotion, if memory serves. Memory serves, I think I actually just saw this in the shop, in the record shop. I was like, oh, it's George. I was like, oh, okay, I'll grab that. And that's basically what happened. I hadn't even heard the song or anything. I just bought it because it was George Harrison. But yes, it does look like an upside down tent. You kind of think, let's go to the cheer tent. Makes you wonder how many smiles would happen there. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed this. My apologies for the horrible lighting, but once again, at least you could see Michael Jackson's feet in some comics. This is just a few of them too, by the way. There's quite a lot. Anyway, again, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate the fact that you're enjoying these. Please do the likes and subscribes and all that sort of stuff that causes me to wave my hands around. And no, I won't hit the comics. I'm not standing that. There we are. Just to prove myself wrong. Please take care of yourself, and hopefully I shall see you in the next one. Ciao.